What's in your family history toolkit? Kia ora, I'm Suitaloa Simon Young and this is One Ancestor at a Time. Today I want to talk about the tools at our disposal when telling our family story. I'm going to start with the tools I used for our last video, How Far Would You Go for Love? But first, some news. For the last year, I've been working on my Master of Technological Futures degree at Academy X. My project is called One Ancestor at a Time, but it's not just this video series, it's also a software platform that will help everybody to tell their story well. My master's degree finishes soon, but the project will continue, and I'll be sharing the journey right here. If you'd like to be part of that journey, please head along to oneancestor.co and sign up for updates. Okay, now let's have a look at the toolkits that we can use for telling our family story. First, we have the things we know from our own family. My biggest resource in How Far Would You Go for Love was a big photo album that's now 113 years old. It's from the reconnaissance trip that my Delamore ancestors took in 1912 from the UK through South Africa and Australia to New Zealand. Family legend has it that they were going to sample each location and then choose where they would live. Luckily for me, they chose Aotearoa. There were also family tree documents that had been passed down, copied and updated throughout the generations. This is really helpful to verify the information that you find online, although sometimes it's impossible to get 100% accuracy. The bulk of the material for that video came from a trip that my Uncle David took to Cambridge, the New Zealand Cambridge, not the UK Cambridge, a few years ago. He spent some time at the local library and found the newspaper reports of Henry's retirement, Edith's obituary. Libraries are just an amazing resource, often containing records that you can't find anywhere else. Librarians are among the most helpful people on earth. Then, we were very fortunate to have several letters from the man himself, HDD, Henry Dickens Delamore. Being a lawyer, he was very articulate and a good record keeper. There's one particular letter with a potted family history that he wrote to his daughter Lorna and then realized it should be shared with the rest of the family. So he got a secretary to type up multiple copies, and I have one of them. The next tool in the toolkit is the online platforms, primarily Family Search, WikiTree, Ancestry.com and MyHeritage. If your ancestor comes from the UK, Find My Past is also helpful. These tools are good for finding new family connections and getting verifications of details like date and place of birth and death. You see, all of these organisations have been working for a long time to digitise the information that's stored in government records, church registers, newspapers and other documents to provide proof points for the key dates and situations in your family tree. So I was able to find out details about Henry's early years, including his address and the number of people in the household, to fill in the facts to go with his memories about his mother's early death. Sometimes people ask, which one of these platforms is best? It's hard to say because they're all good at slightly different things. Family Search and WikiTree are both free platforms. Family Search is a charity run by the Latter-day Saints Church and therefore has their considerable resources behind it, with archives and libraries going back to 1894. WikiTree is a bit newer. Like Wikipedia, it's a free website that anyone can edit, but there are some strict rules to make sure that the information is good quality. For example, everything you put on WikiTree must have a source, citation needed. Ancestry and MyHeritage are paid services and they can be pretty expensive, but they do also have very extensive databases of births, marriages, deaths, as well as census records, and in recent years, newspapers, which helps to not only give details of dates and places, but also stories. As I mentioned before, libraries are a great resource, and another way they can help is by letting you use their subscription to services like Ancestry.com. Very useful if you have a specific target that you're researching and limited resources to get into it. So you can also go one step beyond your library and join your local genealogical society. I'm in New Zealand, and so my local is the New Zealand Society of Genealogists. I don't think I've ever found a group of people more geared to helpfulness. Genealogists are like detectives, and when searching the past, there's no greater source of mysteries than our family trees. The Family Research Centre in Panmure in Auckland is a library on steroids with probably literally tons of information to help people track down who, when, where, what and how their ancestors got around. These are the tools for research and piecing together the puzzle of your family history. As the name of this series shows, it helps to do your search one ancestor at a time. Trying to cover too much territory can be exhausting. But when we focus on one generation, we can get a lot of depth and richness of understanding. But wait, that's not the end. It's not enough to simply research family history. If it stops there, it's very likely no one will read it. You must tell the story in a way that engages people and draws them in. So here are some of the tools I use to do that, and how far would you go for love? Firstly, the name. The key idea came from a line in my great aunt's letter about her father.
He was a great walker and used to tell me how he would walk through as many of the London parks as possible to get to Acton, London West, to visit the girl he had first met when she was just 15 and he 21.
This gave me 2 data points, the beginning and the end point of his walks, that I could then pop into Google Maps and measure exactly how far Henry went for love. Quite far, it turns out. Then I thought about another line from a letter by HDD himself that we ended up quoting in the video itself.
2 Harley Street specialists had told me she would not live 6 months and that nothing could be done for her. I gave up my business in London and she lived 29 more years.
And from there, the key idea arose: if a 3-hour walk across London wasn't too far, why not the ends of the earth? New Zealand is literally as far as you can get from London without coming back around the other side of the earth. So, in my mind, that was a memorable idea to base the whole story around. And what was the fuel for Henry's fire? Well, it was seeing his mother pass away, possibly from the same illness, and his anger at the poor living conditions and the pious fatalism that made a very, very compelling backstory for him. It's cases like this where it's so good to have written material from your own ancestors directly. And this way, ironically, I probably know more of my great-grandfather, who wrote many letters, than my own father, who I only have 1 letter before he passed away when I was 3 years old. But as in life, in genealogy, we work with what we've got. When it came to visual storytelling, I had a wonderful collection of photos, obviously, of the initial round-the-world trip, but I didn't have a lot of images to describe the conditions of London, where Henry and Edith grew up. So I turned to artificial intelligence. This is where we come to a philosophical question faced by all tellers of historical tales. Do we need everything on screen to be 100% historically accurate, or are we telling the key facts and creating a feeling or impression of the period to embellish or decorate the story? I'm in the latter camp, and Leonardo.ai was one of the tools that I used to create the feel of London in the 1870s, 80s and 90s. Why Leonardo? It's one of the few AI image creation platforms that can take a photo of someone and generate a fairly close replica. For some, this might be too far. For others, it might be a very exciting way to bring that ancestor to life. It engages the imagination and allows us to put ourselves in the scene, even if it happened many years ago. Leonardo doesn't handle multiple people in one shot very well, but like everything to do with AI, that will only get better as the technology improves. Another way AI was very helpful was in creating Henry's voice. I wanted a different voice from mine to be the voice of Henry. One way of doing this would be to hire a voice actor on a platform like Fiverr, but the alternative I used was 11 Labs, an AI voice creator that can take your voice and transform it into a number of pre-selected voices. So I provided the raw material in my own voice with my carefully rehearsed posh British accent, and then 11 Labs gave a completely different timbre and tone, bringing Henry to life through his own words. The end result, I hope, was an immersive, emotive journey into history that would otherwise simply be words on a page. This is the kind of journey I want to help people take with their own family history, and the idea is to have software that guides the way. So to follow the journey of that software as it's created and have input into its development, please join our community at oneancestor.co. Not .com, just .co. So that was a whistle-stop tour of the toolkit I used for our last episode. I'd love to know what you use for researching, crafting and sharing your story. Let me know in the comments. Over the next month, I'll be working on the World War I story of my great-grandfather Young. It's fast approaching the date when 110 years ago he faced a life and death struggle in the waters of the Dardanelles. I'm so excited about using some very special pieces of the toolkit to tell that story. Can't wait. See you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you for learning history with me, one ancestor at a time.